In the studio is Joanna Greenwald, who is a good friend of ours here, and also criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, and welcome to the gun show. Hello. Look at you.
This is carrying a kid, I'm telling you.
You are looking good today. All right, let's talk about this thing. When we just left off in this testimony, they're pointing out a bunch of soda cans and beer cans, and I know that some of the substantial evidence in this case is the cans are similar to cans that are found at the scene of the crime, at the dump spot.
Right.
The soda cans are similar. Some of the rope that was used to tie David Masters' body is similar to rope found at the house. And then I think the third sort of prong in that is the windshield wiper apparatus. Pieces of the windshield wiper from the defendant's truck are similar to windshield wiper. Look, it's all similar. It's not exact. You can't say his windshield wiper was found at the scene. His rope from his house was found at the scene. His DNA was found on those beer cans at the scene. So to me, it's like, look, everybody drinks Bud. How could you possibly say similar beer cans or similar rope and get away with it?
Well, if they have a DNA analyst that they're looking at.
They don't.
Well, here's the thing.
It's just a similar kind of beer.
Which means that usually if people watch, crime scene shows, they give someone a cup of, hey, you want a cup of water? They don't give it because of the kindness of their heart. They're going to take that cup away and then test it, DNA on your cup versus what they found at a scene.
And don't blow your nose when you're in the interrogation room.
Don't touch anything. Don't put your hands down, fingerprints, okay? So everything that they took away, which is very interesting, those are great holders that retain fingerprints. The fact that they didn't retain his fingerprints and all that is very surprising. That none of his fingerprints, because those retain fingerprints very well. Duct tape, cans of something like that, of Coke, Bud, you name it. Cans retain, and then fingerprints, mouth, saliva, nothing.
So they don't have it. So is that what you would call crappy evidence?
I would use that term. Yes, that's a very good term. Yeah, sure, I'll use it. I would use it as poor evidence, for a circumstantial case. However, when you go back and then you have at the home that they find, they have to be able to match it up exactly. And this is as a defense attorney, you're going to argue, say, so what? People have rope in their house, just like you said, people have Bud in their house. That does not make one a killer. The fact that now do they find anything in his truck? So then you go and look to see if there's anything in the truck, blood, anything that matches the person. If they don't have that, you have a field day.
I am all for circumstantial evidence when it's good, meaning, gee, we covered this great story of Melanie McGuire, who had these trash bags in her home with the same striations. They came from the same lot as the trash bags that were found with the 3 different pieces of her husband's body thrown away and matching Kenneth Cole luggage.
Right.
And that's great to me. Okay, I get it. No fingerprints or DNA on that.
On those Kenneth Cole luggage? Did you just say Kenneth Cole luggage?
What a waste.
Forget about the case, the luggage.
Waste. Okay. Terrible.
Yes.
But in this particular case, a Dodge Dakota, look, a lot of people have Dodge Dakota trucks. So you're telling me that a windshield wiper apparatus from a Dodge Dakota truck is strong enough to tie it to that Dodge Dakota truck?
Again,
it's not.
Again, you also, and let's also even, to make the matter even worse, is that the witnesses that they're using are all drug addicts who at the time were under the influence.
Yeah.
And we've seen many times, especially on this show, how memory plays a role and how it could be changed one way or another as time goes by. And so they have their witnesses are witnesses who also were under the influence.
Sure.
Who are placing this person with
So they're crappy witnesses.
Everybody so far on my list?
Crappy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and here's the last thing that's crappy.
Give me another. Okay.
In the prosecution's case, his statement, it's kind of crappy too.
Let's go on how terrible that is.
Let's go on that in a moment.
Okay, let us wait and go on that in a moment.
Because coming up, there are other people's statements that we have actually been able to witness on this program and similar programs like ours. We're going to do similar statements that are made by defendants and videotape that make their way into the case and sometimes do cross. I mean, look, you needle away at what the police aren't able to do in their investigation. You get yourself a little bit of reasonable doubt, or maybe just doubt. I'm not sure if it's reasonable, though. So here's the deal. Before the break, you and I were talking about the areas that they've built this case around. The prosecution's got 3 areas. Number 1, some circumstantial evidence: the soda cans, the beer cans, the rope, the piece of
stuff I have in my closet.
Exactly, the stuff that we all have apparently in our closets.
Yeah.
And then these horrible witnesses who are all a bunch of stoners and drug heads that are coming in to tell stories that are very convenient for their lives.
Right.
And then the third thing is the statement of a guy who is a stoner. So those 3 things, which in any other normal case might be very powerful, they're crappy. But if you build a lot of crap up, Is it a better mountain? Is it a good mountain of evidence if it's all crappy?
It just means there's means there's just a little more shoveling to do.
Yeah.
Okay? What we have here is that, just like you said, the circumstantial evidence, not good, not that great for the prosecution case. The witnesses, poor witnesses, because of who they are and what they represent at the time of when this occurred, where they were all drug addicts at the time.
By the way, they're not a whole lot better now, let me tell you. These witnesses are all in jail for other reasons.
And even more so, a lot of them have plea deals. So in either that charges were dropped in exchange for testimony, or they have pled out, they have a certain situation like that. So the importance of this is that you have people that have bias and reason to tell a certain angle. And one of them is that you have a sister that's up there who has another sister who potentially had a role. So
she's got a couple of dogs in the fight, herself and her sister.
Yes. Yeah. And so who's not going to make it that Mr. Nauman, like that he had more of the greater role?
Sure.
So her sister, so we have bias left and right.
Again, each one of these.
And it's a drug den.
It's a drug den. So if you get a little confused in it and you're a juror, in the end you just sort of say, you know, I really don't care. I don't really care to sift through all this evidence and get down to the nitty-gritty details. I just want to get, as you put it, as we were secretly whispering, just get one more bug off the street. I mean, could it come down to that, whereby you have so many seedy characters? The victim's a seedy character, well, wasn't at one point. The defendant is a seedy character. The witnesses are seedy. To hell with all of you. I'm just going to go guilty, and I don't care about the details. Do you have jurors who want to do that?
Unfortunately, I've seen that happen. You would hope, and I know I always get into the psyche of the juror. Aside from my signs, I do the psyche of the juror, where you would hope that everyone's impartial and really take seriously what's placed in front of them. But you can't gamble on just because this is what's placed in front of them is what the verdict is that they come back with. And what they see is a fall from grace of a prosecutor who ends up the low of the low, not just skid row, the low of the row of a drug-addicted person who's gone through and lost everything. And you want to know something? They want someone responsible.
Yeah.
And that's what they see. And his death was not an easy death that we have seen. He died by an overdose of cocaine, which I think is amazing considering we have a drug den. Who shares?
I know. We talked about this
shares?
yesterday. It's an awfully expensive way to kill somebody for a bunch of drug dealers who covet that stuff. I mean,
they got coke. They say, that's my stack.
They had to give a lot of it to
a lot of people shoot over their stack, but instead they say, you want to know something? No, I'm not going to share it with you. I'm going to kill you with it.
Yeah. There could be a good explanation for that, which we'll get into in a bit, and that is that what if they didn't think it was going to take that much coke to kill him, and ultimately they had to keep on going because they were into the project that far and realized, geez, we got to really use our stash to do away with this guy. Who knows what they're thinking or why. But in the meantime, there's something very important that Ms. Greenwald brings up, and that is that the defense never does decide to bring in its own forensic pathologist. That's weird. So we only get to... I said it before, and I'll say it again. What a way to go. And you can take that any way you want. We're going to scoot away for a quick break. Before I go, though, I want to say bye-bye to Joanna Greenwald, who was kind enough to come in and share all of her fabulous insights. Not the last time you'll be here. Come back soon.
Thank you. I would love to.
Going to bring the guns back?
This gun show is ready to come. And I'll bring the other one, too.
Welcome to the gun show, as I said. Thanks, Joanna. Good to see you. I want to remind you of our question of the day as well. And the